Hi everyone, and welcome to another Stamp Anything video. Today I'm going to be doing the Sharing is Caring card. This is a digital stamp image that I made that we'll have on our website for you, and we just printed it out, and now we're going to use our favorite Lawn Fawn die. And there we have our card all matted with the die, and we are going to use this new stamp that is the Christine Cookie stamp, which is released this March of 2018. She comes with a little cookie that you can mask in her hand, and also the Girl Scout banner if you wanted to make her look more like a Girl Scout. I decided to have her masked holding two little cookies because she is sharing her cookies with you today. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to start coloring up our Christine stamp. And we are starting with our skin tones. So we are using our E000 to lay down our first layer of color. And then we're going to go in with our E04 to add where our shadows are. I just make little creases into the back of her knees, a little underneath her hands, in her neck crevice, and just a little darkening areas here and there. Then I blend that out with my E02. So just blending out that really dark E4. And now I will blend that out with an E00. And now back with our E000 just to make it all blend with no harsh line. And now we're going to start with her face and her ears, and we're using the same color, so we're just laying down our E000 just so that we have the paper saturated with a little bit of color, so it's a little bit wet so we can blend better. And our E04, and I realized I didn't do her other ear there. We'll go back that in a second. Lay down that E04, which is just where you would think the shadows are going to hit, which is usually under the hairline. So let's get that E000 on her ear. Okay, so now we're going to take our E02 and blend out the E04, just like we did on her legs and her arms. Just now we have a bigger area to work with, so we just have to blend it out a little bit more than we did on those smaller areas. And I'm just going over back and forth on the E04 line and then extending it a little bit further. And now our E00, blending it out further. And now I'm going to do her cheeks with an R22, which I go about a quarter of the way down the side of her cheeks. And then I use my R20 to do the front part of the cheeks under the eyes where her cheekbones would be. Just repeat that on both sides and try to make sure that the distance, is the same. Blend that out. And now I will take my E00 and blend the end of the cheeks out. And then my E000. And then I usually go back with the R20 because I really like the pink cheeks, just to get it a little more pink. And then just have to soften those edges once more, so I use that E000 and just soften the cheeks. And there we have our skin. I'm just trying to get an even blend there. And the circles of her eyes, it's okay if you colored over it because you can do that with a white gel pen later. And I'll show you how I fix that because I always bleed into the eyes. Doing her little tongue with an RV2, an RV2 and an RV6, just to give a little color. Okay, so now we're going to start working on her hair. And this stamp is actually pretty easy to do with the hair because it already has the lines drawn in that you can follow. And I am using my YR27. And I'm just kind of going over the lines there. Then I'm going in with a YR18. And now that is the Y23, just to fill in some of the opening areas. There's my R59, just to give it a little bit of darkness in the shadows there, and a little pop of more red, since she is going to be kind of like a strawberry type blonde or a redhead. And these are just the shortest strokes where, you know, her roots would be and wherever the hair would be bunched up, which would be near the barrette. Then we're going back in with our YR27 just to get that R59 not to be so stark on the ends. And then back with the YR18, just blending it a little bit more. And I just wanted a little more contrast of color, so that's why I brought in the E23. You can't really see it too much here, but in person you can see that there's the brown in there. And now we're just going to repeat the process with the curls on her hair. And you can actually be quite messy with this because she's got really curly hair. Just follow some of the lines that's already included with the stamp. Just make sure that when you add your darker colors, it goes, you know, underneath her face area and maybe underneath where one hair strand is lying on top of another, just where that would be the shadows and the roots of where the darkest colors would lay. And it doesn't have to be precise because she's got a lot of going on with all those curls. I just randomly picked places to put it, and I'm just coloring in all the white spots with that the yellow. And now we're just going back, using the same colors over and over, blending it out, getting some of those rich colors in there. So she's a strawberry blonde reddish haired girl. I'm going to flip her over and do the same thing to the other side. Again, just follow the lines that are in there. No rhyme or reason to what lines I'm picking. Just go over them and blend it out. And just keep repeating this process with all of your colors. Again, with your darkest colors in the shadow areas of the hair. filling up some more of the color. And then because this happens, it sometimes blends out those other colors too much, and that's why you go back in with your colors to just keep laying it on top, just doing a cute and quick flick motion, following the lines of the stamp. And there we have her. And you can see there's highlights of the yellows and the reds in there for some contrast. So now we're going to color in the next area. So we are going to pick our colors, and we are going to do her in some purples. So I just picked 3 shades of blue violets, BV8, 4, and 2. They blend really well together. So I'm just coloring in her little barrette. Excuse me. And now we're going to color in her little skirt here. I'm blending it out with the BV04. And then into the BV02. And it just really didn't give the fold of what I wanted for her skirt, so I went back with the 2 lighter colors, and I'm just trying to get a more even blend here for that skirt. Let's color in her little shoes. And we left the left sides actually white, so it looks like she has a shine on her shoe. I didn't like how the skirt comes out, so later on we're going to polka dot it with our white gel pen. So if there's ever things you don't like, you can always go back and fix it. So that works out great. I'm just using some of my cool grays just to add a little bit of shadow and texture to her shirt. Color. She had a little button on her skirt, so we just popped in some yellow real quick. These cookies are really small. You'll see more of it in the larger cookies, but we're using E44, E39, and Y21. And we're just blending it to look like some cute little chocolate chip cookies. So these are my colored pencils. Sometimes I just like to use them because it helps you get even more shadow contrast and more depth in the coloring, so I'm just coloring up in the shadow of her hair and blending it out with the colorless blender pencil. This is the pencil duster from Kit & Clowder, so you can just get your pencil shavings or whatever you want to call them. I don't know what you would call them, just to get that off your paper so you don't got to use your hand or you have to blow, because sometimes that actually can get on other areas of your project. So I'm still fuddling with this skirt and not happy with it. So we are going to, I think, get the white gel pen here, or I guess in a little while we'll get it, sorry. Okay, still using some of our dark brown color pencils, adding some more depth to her hair. Random places following the lines that are in there. And then we're going to use the colorless blender. And you don't have to use the colorless blender. I just like to use it with my colored pencils. It just flattens the color a little bit and makes it blend a smidge bit more. Now we're doing the white gel pen. All right, here we go. So first I always clean up the outside edges of where I might have went out of the line. So we're just cleaning up the edge of our image. And now we're adding the polka dots to her skirt because I really didn't like how the skirt turned out. And by adding polka dots, it sometimes hides the mistakes that you have made. And now I'm just going around her eye because when I did her cheeks, I got some of the pink in the white area of her eye. And then we're going to add our little pupil. And you will see that I don't get a good circle on her left eye, and I kept fudging with it, and it just turned into more of a blob, and I was trying to perfect it to get it better, and I just was not happy with it. They were uneven, and I'm trying to fix it, and then it became too big of a pupil. So I actually just ended up taking out the pupil with my fingernail because the gel pen was still wet. It smeared a bit, but I knew that I'd go over with my black Copic marker and hide that right back out. So sometimes the gel pen, they kind of get a little gunky, and then they just don't make good circles. So we're just now covering up that mistake that we just did and just making her back with her black eyeballs there. And now we're going to start on our card in a moment, and I was just checking to make sure we had everything we needed. So we are going to start with our card base now, and we're going to start coloring in these big, yummy looking chocolate chip cookies. And this is just a digital image that I created for this project. I just drew out a couple cookies, and then I made the little heart and stripes around the corner and added the digital sentiment of sharing is caring. So first I laid down the E44, and now I'm going in with some E39. As you know, cookies are not, uniform in color. They have variations of color, so I just wanted to try and get it to look with a few different colors in there. And so we're just going to build layers of the brown for our cookie. And now we're just blending in those E44 and E39. And now we have our Y21. And in cookies, there's always that one area of the cookie that's like the lighter part, usually on top, where the cookie's, not as crisply baked in the center like they are on the outside. So I just wanted to try to represent that with a lighter tone of a yellow in there. And we're just adding some more of the yellow. And there's our E43. And now we're going to pretty much blend all of this as best as we can together to have a really, really good blend of those darker colors into the lighter. And I am going over the chocolate chip areas at this point to blend, and that's fine because the chips are going to be such a dark brown that it'll cover right up over this E31 that I'm using. And we're just going to keep blending out those darker edges of the cookie until we get it to be more smooth. And now we're going to do the chocolate chips, which is just two colors, an E59 and an E49. So we're just coloring half of the chip in the one color and then the other side in the other. So one side is darker than the other. And it's not perfect circles, so you don't want to color it, with it straight down the middle. Kind of want it to be like C shapes. And there is our first cookie. Okay, and so now we're just going to basically repeat the whole entire process of the cookies on the upper two. So we are in with our E44, just going around some of the edges, and now adding our E39. And we're just basically doing the exact same thing we did on the lower right cookie. Adding different layers of brown so our cookie is not a single color cookie. And the outer edges of cookies, when you bake them, are always the darkest, and that's why we're putting these darker browns around the edges and that yellow in towards the center. Now just blend those two colors together because they really don't blend really great together until you get all three colors in there to really blend them out. But you get it started by layering the one on top of the other. And now for the lighter area of our cookie. And now a lighter brown, a beigey brown. I believe that's the E, what is that, the E34, maybe 43? 43. Just start blending the yellow into the browns. And just start really working those colors to blend together. So I'm using the broader tip just so I can blend it better. And that's with the E43. And now blending some more with the lighter. And you'll just keep repeating this process and the blending and everything until you get a nice smooth blend going on. And now we're working on our chocolate chips. Again, that's the E59 and the E49. And you can see I didn't just color half of it. I made kind of like C shapes in the chips. And then I go back on the other side and make a reverse C to fill up the other side. So it's not a perfectly shaped half and half chocolate chip with the dark and the light. And then just blend those two seams together. And there we have our chocolate chip cookies. So now, let's see, I want to color these hearts. So I am coloring it half on one side, the darkest side with the R29, blending it out a little with the R24. And then finishing it up to the lighter area of R21. And I'm going to repeat all four hearts the same exact way, with the darker in one corner and then fading into the lighter to the opposite side. Sorry we're off screen here, but we're just doing the exact same thing to our bottom heart. And now back to our other side. And now that bottom heart that's off screen, sorry. And that's going to take care of the four hearts. So now we have these bars or lines on the side, and I just wanted to do it like a gradient color with the purple so it matches the girl's outfit. So I'm starting with the BV08 to do the darkest on the top and bottom, and then I am blending that towards the center with the BV04. And I'm just trying to keep the line distance about the same. And then the BV02 to fill in, so we have a darker to medium to light, light to medium to dark. So it's kind of like a gradient effect on the stripes on the side. Okay, and we're going to repeat that process on all of the edges. So again, with my darkest, and then our medium BV04. And now you notice these are a shorter distance, so you just want to make sure it's a little bit even. And then our BV02. Just blending that out. And now repeating the next longer side. And I'm just trying to keep the distance equal to the one on the other side. And there's our middle color, our BV04. And now our BV02 for the centers. And you can kind of see how it's a gradient of the light to the dark. And our last side, BV08. Our BV4. And lastly, our BV2. And there is our card base, and you could stop here if you wanted. I did not like the stark whiteness, so I wanted to use the new Squiggle Wiggle stencil that is part of our March 2018 release. It's a pretty cool stencil, and I didn't want to fill up the whole thing, but I wanted to do kind of like a gradient with some yellows and oranges. So I have some distress inks. Here we go, we got the distressed inks, and I figured I would use the scattered straw and the spiced marmalade. So I'm just putting my stencil down. And just inking up my pad. And I'm just putting down some of the scattered straw. And you see, I'm not going to fill in every area, just, you know, around the cookies a little bit. Get that going there. And then I am going to take some of the spiced marmalade. Just add in some orange a little bit there too on the edges. So here's my blunder alert. As you can see, I didn't mask off the edges and it went over our beautiful purple lines. So I really wanted to mask that off and I just was not thinking when I was doing this video. So I'm going to pause the video. I am going to color up another background super quick off screen and then make sure I remember to mask when I do my stenciling. So here is our original one. I colored up another one really quick. I didn't cut it out with my die yet because I wanted to color it really quick. So anyway, so I did my stencil, the beautiful Squiggle Wiggle stencil. It's really cute. Now I'm just going in with some of my colored pencils again, adding some more details to our cookies. Because cookies are a little bit lumpy, so they need to have hills and valleys and not look perfectly flat. And I really like how the stencil looks on here. It almost looks like I embossed a background because of the crisp white of the stencil against the color, but we actually didn't. So I thought that was a pretty cool feature as well, using this new stencil. Okay, so just adding some more of that colored pencils for our details here. And this is our colorless blender, just so we can smooth it all out. And I really think that they look great, the cookies, because they have the different tones of the color. They're not completely flat. Okay, so there is our backdrop for our cookies and our card base. But now I, just so I could get an idea where I'm going to be putting here, but what I love to do is I love adding the toner grays to make things pop on a card, to add depth and shadow. So I'm going to go get some toners. And I just kind of pick and choose, and sometimes I start off with one and it's not the one I want to use. Here's our old card, so I was able to practice to see what toner I wanted. But these cookies actually came out a little bit darker, so I needed to go with a darker toner gray. And I'm just going to pop shadows behind the part of the small cookie that is in front of the big cookie, because you would get a shadow there, and then you get a shadow underneath and off to the sides of the cookies. So we're just using our toners there, and I believe I use about 3 different toners, the darkest one, and then I go blending it out with a lighter one, and then I usually end with either the T0 or the colorless blender. And I just like it because then it makes the cookies look a little bit more realistic and a little 3D. And I always love adding dimension to my cards by adding the toners for shadows. Just makes it pop a little bit more. You don't have to do this, it's just personal preference. I just happen to love it. So there's my colorless blender, and I'm just going over the edge. Now we got to do a little bit on the bottom cookie, but now the bottom cookie, I'm actually making it a line underneath the cookie of the shadow because it's on the bottom. And And we're just blending it out. And then we need to add a little bit of shadow off to the side of this cookie as well, because it is standing in front of the purple stripe line. So you want to be able to make a cast shadow there to show that it is standing in front of the purple lines. And also, when I recolored this one off screen, I did the gradient different on the purples. I did from dark all the way down to light, whereas before I did it where it was dark going into light and then the light going back out into dark with the in the middle. This one I just did from top to bottom instead. And you'll be able to see that in the finished product, since some of it is still off screen. Sorry about that. Okay, so there we are finishing up the shadow of our cookies. And there's our little girl, our Christine stamp. And we just don't want to cover that sharing is caring. And we need to cut out our card. So there it is. I just die cut it out with that Lawn Fawn die again. And we are going to pop dot the Christine stamp. So just adding some foam dots to her real quick. And the tiny ones on her shoes. And let's just add one more here. So just move that one. There we go. All right. So now we're going to remove the backing. Where we're going to place her. Okay, just push her down, place her on our card. She's adorable, I love her. Okay, so then we have these pre-made, we have a craft envelope with the pre-made cutout card. You can buy those anywhere, or you can actually score your own prior to doing your project. Just going to add some quick adhesive. And then we're going to take our card base of the mat and stick it on our craft folded card base. Make sure it's adhered good. And there you have your adorable card. You can add an inside mat if you needed, and comes with the little envelope, and she is ready to go. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed our video today. Have a good one.